you remember better than I where we were in Maccabees book, or did we finish? We didn't quite finish. I know where we were. The martyrdom episodes in 2 Maccabees. The reason they're important, and I do want to move along, is because we saw that 2 Maccabees was more detailed in many ways than 1 Maccabees, but it left off around chapter 7 of 1 Maccabees. And I explained that to you. I told you that 1 Maccabees goes on and ends with someone called who? John Hyrcanus. So basically you have, if you want to follow Josephus' scheme, who follows 1 Maccabee, you have Mattathias. He obviously knew the book or a similar book to it. You have Mattathias as a progenitor. So then he has all these sons. Notice all the names later Christianity picks up on as we discussed, as we mentioned. So Jonathan may be the only one that is not picked up. There's a John too, but he's killed, but we'll put him in here anyway. And Simon. There's an Eliezer too, I think. He's killed. These 2 are killed. So you see, the reason Maccabees 1 goes to Mattathias is so we can bring in the whole family. Because Jonathan has some offspring here, they're all killed. And he has some offspring here. 2 of them, I think, are killed, as I recall. And then 1, John Hyrcanus, survives. And all the rest of what you would call the Maccabean dynasty, or the Hasmoneans, if you prefer, come down from him. In theory, though it said Judas at one point settled down in Maccabees 1, I think it says that. It doesn't mention any offspring. I don't think Judas ever settled down. I think he's an epitome of a, what you would call a holy warrior, Kedoshim in Daniel, saints of the Most High God in English translation. But you see, these are not saints with halos around their neck, around their heads. These are warrior saints. And you'll get the same thing in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So again, the people who think that these are Essenes and therefore peaceful and not preparing for final war against an evil opponent, all evil on the earth actually, are missing the point. And these are people who are very engagé, committed, same as, so I don't see the Maccabees and the Scrolls, as I told you, can possibly have any kind of antagonism one to the other particularly. Just a few things in 1 Maccabee brings some antagonism. Maybe foreign appointment of high priests. I told you that I think that the difference between the Scroll people and some other groups is this problem of foreign appointment of high priests. We're going to get it here, that Jonathan and Simon at some point start accepting appointment from the Seleucid dynasty. It's in Maccabees 1. It's not in Maccabees 2. Why? Because Maccabees 2 doesn't even hardly mention Jonathan or Simon, does it? It only mentions, starts earlier with Onias from the previous high priesthood, who's saintly, and a zealot for the laws. And at one point he's called the protection of his fellow countrymen. I told you that if you look at the early church descriptions of James, the brother so-called of Jesus, you'll find that he's called protection as well. In the early church text, not in the New Testament. Nobody knows what that means, but I think it harks back to this idea that through his existence, through his righteous existence, he protects his fellow countrymen. It's something to do with the legend of the 10 just men. That in, I think it's Proverbs, it says, the tzaddik is the pillar of the world. The tzaddik is the pillar of the world. What does tzaddik mean? What?
Righteous.
Righteous one. What's the root of that? in Hebrew? ZDK. What does ZDK imply in Hebrew? Righteousness. What word would you get from that? Put the vowels in differently. Zedek, righteousness. Put the vowels in a little differently again. Zadok, the name of the first high priest. In whose time? David's time and Solomon's time, the first high priest of the first temple. Therefore, a group of people in this period now that we're talking about are claiming descent from the first high priest of the first temple. And we call them in English Sadducees. We call them in English Sadducees. Notice the double D. But that's from a Greek word. It's from a Greek word approximating a Hebrew word. The Z has gone to S. It's really Sadduki. Sadduki. We say Sadducee because we soften the C in English. It's really Sadduki. And that, of course, comes from Zadok. Zadok.